It's Friday. No, it's not. It's Sunday. Sunday the 27th of August. And we're here down at the Historic Dockyards, listening to the chugging of the engine of the new Queen Elizabeth, with a British flag flying at the front, the aircraft carrier, which has recently come into harbour in Portsmouth. A little bit smaller than the American one, which couldn't make it into the harbour. Got the Mary Rose Museum over there, and the Victory, and the rest, with the gun wharf spinnaker just behind. Yeah. Let's do this side. Yeah, it's for little boats. See where that boat is over there? They use those little steps for those ones. Do you want to go right to the top? Or do you want to go at the front? Or at the back? You might be too busy by the time we get on there.
Now, as we come out into the main harbour, looking across to your right hand side and again across the tops of the buildings, you'll just see the three masts of HMS Victory. Normally a lot taller than that, but she's undergoing a major refit. HMS Victory, Lord Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar. She was built in Chatham, launched May the 7th, 1765. Built as a first-rate three-deck ship with 102 guns. She cost about £100,000 to build. In the early part of the 20th century, Victory was actually moored in the harbour. There was feared she might sink at her mooring, so they moved her into number 2 dry dock, where you see her there today, and she was eventually opened up to the public for the first time in 1928. Now, also coming up on the right here, we've got entrance to a dock. Now, as we go by, if you look inside this dock, and on the left-hand wall, you will see some stairs that lead down to the water. This is the King's Stairs. It's here that Buster Crabbe dived into the water, April the 19th, 1956, never to be seen again. We now know he's working for MI6, spying on a Soviet cruiser moored in the port of Portsmouth. Mystery still surrounds his disappearance to this very day. Now, very shortly, folks, the buildings on the quay wall on the right here, they do clear, and very shortly the stern of HMS Victory will come into view on your right-hand side. Now, as Victory comes into view, you will notice she's still flying the white ensign, where she's still a commissioned warship. She's still part of our Royal Naval Fleet. In fact, the oldest warship in the world today. Also on the back of Victory, you'll see 3 sets of windows. For the middle windows, there'll be Nelson's cabins at the Battle of Trafalgar. Behind Victory, a black building with a grey dome roof. That's home to the Mary Rose, King Henry VIII's flagship. 19th of July, 1545, she set sail from Portsmouth as lead ship to fend off attack from a French invasion. Unfortunately, she sunk a mile off a Southsea castle, where Henry VIII was watching in horror. Remained on the seabed for over 400 years before being raised in 1982, brought back to Portsmouth, where she's now on permanent display. We also have an entrance to another dock on the right there. It's got the Great Bridge going across it. That's the entrance to number 1 basin. Unfortunately, you won't see it from here, but in number 1 basin, we do actually have the oldest dry dock in the world, which is number 5 dry dock, construction in the year 1698. So anyhow, folks, here we go then. This is what we've all come to see today. Queen Elizabeth alongside the Princess Royal Jetty. Now, this vessel, built in Rosyth, she's 70,600 tonnes, makes her the biggest ever warship built for the Royal Naval Fleet. Now, she's capable of carrying some 40 aircraft up on that large flight deck, named by Her Majesty the Queen on the 4th of July 2014. Now, our first commanding officer is a Commodore Jerry Kidd, who previously commanded HMS Ark Royal and HMS Illustrious. Now this vessel will be fitted out with the F-35 Lightning Strike multi-role fighter aircraft, which are currently being built over in America at a cost of £100 million each. She'll also have the Merlin helicopters for early warning and anti-submarine warfare. She's the second Royal Navy warship to bear the name Queen Elizabeth. She cost £3.1 billion to build. She's 280 metres in length and 39 metres across, and there's 11 metres under the water. From the flight deck down, she has actually got 9 decks. Her propulsion, 2 Rolls-Royce 36 megawatt MT30 turbines, producing some 48,000 horsepower. She has 4 diesel engines, producing 15,600 horsepower. Her top speed is 25 knots, with a range of 10,000 nautical miles. Now on the Queen Elizabeth will be the 679 crew. They are the ship's company, but this will increase dramatically when they get the fleet air arm personnel, and it will put them well over 1,000. In fact, she is actually capable of carrying 1,600 persons. Now, when they're fitted, the arms will be 3 Phalanx close-in weapon systems, firing some 3,500 rounds a minute, and 4 30mm guns. She also has the Artisan medium-range radar system on board. You'll see the 2 accommodation blocks. The rear one is flight control. That's where they control all the takeoffs and landings on that very large flight deck. The front one is the navigation block. That's where they do the navigating and the driving. Now, our sister ship, Prince of Wales, being constructed up in Rosyth as we speak. Exactly the same as the Queen Elizabeth, and she will be coming down to Portsmouth in the year 2019, hopefully. Now, Queen Elizabeth, she's alongside the Princess Royal jetty. This started life as the middle slip jetty, but they had to do a lot of work to this quay wall, make it a lot stronger to deal with this very large vessel alongside. And it was actually Princess Royal that came down to open that jetty earlier on this year. Now, you see the police boats in attendance. They've been guarding the Elizabeth since she's been in Portsmouth. They've been here 24/7, heavily armed at all times. Now, I did say she carried 40 aircraft. That's her normal operation capacity, but she can actually fit 70 on there if she wants to. And this will include the F-35 Lightning Strike aircraft, Chinook helicopters, Apaches, Merlins, and Wildcats. Depending on what role she's going out to play, will depend on what aircraft she actually take with her. Now, if you are struggling to get the vessel in your camera frames, don't despair, because on the way back down the harbour, we will be further to your left-hand side. You'll get a better view of the ship's length overall. We'll be a little bit further away. (1,350 tons, 152 metres in length, 21 metres across. Top speed of 29 knots. Now on the bow of Diamond you will see the 114mm Mark III Vickers gun. This gun fires some 25 rounds a minute over a range of 22,000 metres, near on 12 miles. Behind that gun, the grey box, that's the launching stations for the brand new Sea Viper missile system with a combination of Astra 15 and 30 missiles. On the back deck, she'll carry a Merlin helicopter and she has a crew of 190. Now looking on the forward mast of Diamond, you'll see a big grey ball. That is the Samson multifunctional radar. That is the latest in radar technology that can detect 2,000 flying objects at any one time. Now the Port of Portsmouth's been a naval dockyard for well over 500 years. And as we go on our tour, you'll be looking around with 3 miles of continuous naval quay. The quay wall ahead on the right there, you'll probably see some of the black gates. They've got the yellow handrails along the tops. These gates act as corridors and lead into number 3 basin directly behind, which is a 60-acre pond dug out by hand by prisoners of war back in the 1860s and 1870s. They can also use these corridors as dry docks if required. Also in front of the Diamond there, in the tidal basin, you'll see P283. That one's HMS Mersey, and she's one of our river-class patrol vessels. We got 3 of those ships, the Severn, the Mersey, and the Tyne. 1,700 tons, 90 metres in length, 13 metres across. Speeds are well over 20 knots. They're very, very fast, those little ships. They have a crew of 48 on board. Their main role is actually fishery protection. Now this empty quay wall on the right here, this is known as Northwest Wall. Now they've just started to do quite a lot of work to this quay wall, because they're going to strengthen this one as well. This will be the second berth for the aircraft carriers. So we do get two aircraft carriers in at the same time. This is where they're part of the second one on your right hand side.
It's really low. Yeah, it's fish. Jellyfish.
As long as Daddy can have a beer.
Oh, the red thing.
Yeah.
Was the boat water?
Yeah,
Very good.
Now, as we make our way around the next corner here, folks, look at the other side of the quay wall over on your right there. Coming into view, D-35, which is HMS Dragon. Now, she's another one of our Type 45 destroyers. Now, if you look in the middle of the Dragon, you will see the phalanx there. It's got the white dome on it. They've got one either side. Now, eventually, Queen Elizabeth will have 3 of these. The phalanx fires 3,500 rounds a minute over a range of 1,500 metres. Any incoming targets, such as missiles or planes, it will automatically lock on to the closest target. It will fire, continue firing till that target's been destroyed, then automatically move on to the next closest target. Now, you also notice the sides of these destroyers as we go by. They're angled out at the bottom, angled in at the top. That's part of the stealth technology. On a radar screen, these vessels show up no bigger than the average size fishing boat. Coming up on the outside berths here, we have F-83, which is HMS St Albans. Parked behind her, F-239, which is HMS Richmond. Now, both these vessels are Duke-class Type 23 frigates. Now, we have 13 of these ships in the Royal Naval Fleet. 4,500 tons, 133 metres in length and 15 metres across. Top speed at 28 knots. Now, as we go by, again on the bow, the Vickers gun firing some 25 rounds a minute. Behind that, the launching stations for the Harpoon and Seawolf missile systems, tutoring systems on these ships. Two 30mm guns, one either side of the funnel, you'll see just in front of the crash boat covered up. On the back decks, your Carrier Merlin helicopter, they have a crew of 173. Now, you also notice as we go by, the superstructures, the top bits, are actually built in 3 separate blocks. But there is a reason for this. They were to have a fire on board one day. Isolate the fire to one of these blocks, stop it from spreading through the ship. Looking across the flight deck of St Albans, some very good views at number 3 basin. This is the basin that was dug out by hand by the prisoners of war. Now, they actually used some 2,000 convicts and around 1,200 paid labourers dig that pond out. Actually 5.7 metres deep over there, all dug out by hand. Now, as we pass the stern of Richmond, the other side of the quay, coming into view there, is the Diligence. Now, she belonged to the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, means the vessel's actually owned by the Royal Navy, run by merchant seamen. Now, Diligence, she was actually a submarine repair vessel, very large floating workshop. Now, any submarines at sea that need to be repaired, rather than bring them back to port, we'll send this vessel out to do the repairs out at sea. Now, unfortunately, she has come to the end of her days now. They've got a much newer vessel to take on this role. So Diligence, she's now being de-stored. Anything of any values being removed from this vessel. Once this is done, she will remain in Portsmouth until her fate has been decided. Now, this is also the end of the Royal Naval Dockyard on your right. We're just going to do our turn, and as we do so, ahead of us, soon to be on the right, the commercial part of Portsmouth. Now, these 2 berths ahead of us are fruit berths. We've got fruit from all around the world arriving here.
Look at that.
Fife and geese, they bring bananas into the country. In fact, 80% of all the bananas eaten in the UK arrive here in Portsmouth. Now, when they come over here, they're stored in the brown sheds, which you'll see on the quay, which are known as cooler sheds. When the bananas come over here, they're still green. Put in these sheds, cold air's pumped on them to keep them green, till such times are required in the shops. Also, when they come over here, they have to be fumigated. The odd creepy crawly and poisonous spider normally finds their way across them. But it's not just bananas, it's fruit from all around the world. They're very, very busy here all the time. Now, on the left-hand side, soon to be on the right-hand side, we have Ferry port. This was opened in 1976. There's 5 berths here in total. Makes it very busy. It's the second busiest ferry port in the UK today. In fact, it's second to Dover. Now, we've got quite a few vessels alongside. Now, if you look directly to your right-hand side, up on number 1 link span, you will see the bow of the Normandy Express. She's the Brittany Ferry high-speed catamaran, directly to your right there. Now, 2 hours and 40 minutes, that's all it takes her to cross the English Channel to Cherbourg. Very fast when she's out at sea, speeds of around 46 knots. So 2 hours and 40 minutes over to Cherbourg. Also known around these parts.
Yeah, now we get to see.
On number 2 berth, we have the Commodore Goodwill. She's one of the Condor ferries. She runs down to the Channel Islands of Jersey and Guernsey. But the next one to go will be the Normandy. She's due to go at 2:30. But they are still loading her up. If you look at the back there, still driving the trucks and the cars on, the caravans. I can imagine they're getting close to the end. She normally sounds about 2:30 this one when she goes to Portsmouth. Now ferries leave from this port, go across to Cherbourg, Le Havre, Caen, St Malo, the Channel Islands, and also down to Spain. The ferry port actually deals some 2.2 million passengers
So the engines
and around
turn us around.
660,000 vehicles every year.
They've turned the engines down. Now they've started back
Yeah,
really
we're going
fast.
full speed ahead.
Now they're going super fast. I know why he's not.
She's an old Type 82 destroyer. Now she was launched in 1969 out of Swan Hunter on the Tyne. For active service during the Falklands crisis. She was eventually decommissioned in 1991. Recommissioned in 1993 as a static training ship. That's Bristol.
Are you
Funny
doing
down.
that? Are you doing that?
Behind Bristol is Whale Island. That's home to HMS
That's
Excellence.
massive.
Was the Royal Naval Gunnery School for many years. Now a training establishment for the Royal Navy, the Marines and Sea Cadets. Now Sea Cadets, they have a very good time when they come to train here at Whale Island. And you bring them out on the water here, they teach them how to row, teach them how to sail, they teach them how to drive a powerboat. Take them back ashore and teach them how to swim. Now as we clear Whale Island, if you look directly to your right, right over the other side of the harbour, to the left of the grey hangar,
Very deep here,
the
deep enough
castle
for
on the
that.
shoreline. That was built in the year
Half that boat's
285
underwater.
by the Romans and rebuilt by the Normans at a later date. Between us and the castle, there's actually
Oh,
some
look,
6
there's a castle over there.
square miles of mudflats. Those are the water you see on your right, going away at low tide. In fact, these red posts, if we were to go the other side of them, would definitely go aground. The big hill in the distance on the right, that's called Portsmouth Hill. Now, they actually built a series of red brick forts up on the top there, as a result of a royal commission back in 1859. Now, what they decided in those days, there are quite a few defences facing to the south out to sea, and none facing to the north. And the enemies wanted to, they could come ashore along the east coast, invade and pull the Portsmouth through the back door. They built these red brick forts up on the top there, and all the cannons are actually north facing. They're actually facing inland. Also on top of that hill to the right, you'll see the grey structure up there with the 2 radar masts. It's up there they test all the new radar equipment out.
I know how massive it is because how fast the tour buses go. So if I come to yours again this year, then we could do this again.
Yeah?
How much did it cost for tickets?
This is about £35.
What?
Isn't too bad because it includes everything. There's a police boat coming out now.
Yeah, there was a police boat ages
Yeah, if you look carefully you might see them with the guns.
ago. Wait, why is the criminals here?
There might be, and that's why they have the guns.
Now in the distance on your right hand side, there up in Ferry, we've got the 2 grey oil tankers. Now the front one was called the Gold Rover, the one behind the Black Rover. Belongs to the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, and again both these vessels have actually come to the end of their days. In the all the ports have away from their fate. They are quite old. They're both built back in 1974. So they are old bangers, not a lot of use for anybody nowadays. Now these older vessels, they tend to get towed off from Portsmouth, towed off to Turkey, and they're broken up when they're scrapped. Also coming up on the right here, we've got the jetty and 2 great train beds down on it, part of the armament department. Over here they actually load and unload the warships with their warheads. And they do this in the middle of the harbour for one good reason. In case you have any accidents. In case somebody drops something, you never know.
The name of the boat? See that raised bit at the front there? So the aeroplanes take off. Stand on there. Can maybe go and look at the submarine or something?
Now if you're not happy with your picture of the Queen Elizabeth, here we go again then folks, on your left hand side. Will be a further away from the vessel this time. Overall. Now as we go by, you'll notice on the bow and the stern she's actually flying a blue ensign. She's not yet commissioned. It's due to take place 40 years out. Now once this ceremony's taken place, she will then be known as HMS Queen Elizabeth. They will change those flags to the white ensign. However, she's not due to enter service until the year 2020. That's when she'll get a full complement of planes on board. They are hoping to get some 50 years of service out of this vessel.
That's going to be a place to carry people to a whole different country, like America.
Yeah, they'll probably go to America, go to the Middle East, probably go to Australia, go all around the world. It's not going to start doing that until 2020.
Coming up on the right hand side here, we've got another jetty which is about to go by. You'll see the radar scanners on the end. As we go by, if you follow this jetty inshore, you'll see the red brick warehouses are pretty large. That was the main armament centre for the port for many years. It opened in 1777. In those days, you saw gunpowder over there. Gunpowder magazines still there to this day. One explosion museum. Pretty hard to its best during the Second World War. There's a workforce of over 3,700 men and women working 12-hour days, trying to keep up with the massive requirements of the D-Day activities. Eventually the place was deemed too close to residential areas and they had to move it about 4 miles along the coast on your right to a place called Beddenham. All the warheads nowadays are all stored in concrete bunkers. These concrete bunkers are on the ground for obvious reasons. Now keep those pictures, cameras sort of pointing to the left hand side folks, because not only you've got Queen Elizabeth, our newest warship, coming into view directly behind HMS Victory, our oldest warship. Now the Battle of Trafalgar, HMS Victory had 821 crew officers, including Nelson, Captain Hardy and 9 officers. Her crew comprised of 22 different nationalities, including 4 Frenchmen. Good air points in the game. The oldest crewman on board, he was called Walter Burke, aged 67. The youngest was Thomas Twitcher. He was only 12. Now Lord Nelson's famous last words when he was fatally wounded at Trafalgar was, "Take me home." Very unusual in those days. You died at sea, you was buried at sea. Wrapped in your hammock, weighted down and carefully thrown over the side. But they did actually bring his body back to England. How they did this, they preserved in a barrel of brandy topped up with wine. Got him back to Sheerness, where he was taken out and up to London for his funeral. In those days, brandy and wine, very expensive. To save wasting it, they actually gave the barrel to the crew of Victory. In turn, they decided to toast their fallen admiral. But when the crewmen did remark that the brandy was definitely full-bodied. Passing the island on the right there with the green bushes and trees, that's called Burrow Island. Also known locally as Rat Island. Now, years ago, used to be a prison hold moored in the harbour. The prisoner that died on this hulk actually got buried on that island. Soon became infested with large black rats. Also used as a homing station for carrier pigeons before the days of radio. It's only used nowadays. It's got an electrical substation hidden in the bushes for the various power cables that cross under the harbour. Now behind the island, over on the right there, the red brick buildings of the Royal Clarence Yard was the main stores depot for the Royal Navy for many years. That opened in 1828. Turn of the 20th century, most of the warships had their own refrigeration on board, could make their own bread. No longer needed stores depot and eventually closed. It was Royal Clarence Yard that Queen Victoria's body was brought back from her beloved Osborne House on the Isle of Wight before it was put on a train and taken back to London. That was in the year 1901.
Impressed with that boat. That's good. Impressed. Yeah. Some yabbies on that one.
We have another large jetty on the right here. This one's called the Oil Fuel Jetty. See that the various Royal Fleet auxiliary tankers come to load their various oils and fuels. Keep the Royal Navy on the go today. During the Falklands crisis back in 1982, the majority of oil and fuel that was used by the ships down there actually left from this jetty. Now alongside you will see the Cumbrian Fisher. She is a commercial tanker. She's been chartered in by the Royal Navy to deliver fuel oil here. Also the deepest part of the harbour going across now, folks, got over 18 metres of water underneath us at the moment. Coming up on the left-hand side, you'll get some very good views of HMS Warrior alongside over here. She was launched 29th of December 1860 up at Blackwell on the Thames. And just happened to be the coldest day in Britain for over 50 years, and she froze to the slip. Braziers burnt round the bottom of the ship. They ordered an extra tug of hydraulic rams. They eventually ended up with over 100 men on the top deck running from side to side, trying to rock her free. After 20 minutes, she gave up and slipped down to the Thames. Steam engine on board, also built in London up in Greenwich, just over 5,000 horsepower. When she was in service, she had a crew of 705 on board, including 66 stokers, working in heats of around 43 degrees. Back to the right then, Gosport Marina. As you can see, that's home to an array of plastic fantastics there. Also coming up on the right, the town of Gosport. Now there is a ferry, links Gosport to Portsmouth, takes 5 or 6 minutes to cross the harbour. This cuts out a car journey of over 20 miles. Ferry is used by over 3 million passengers each year. They originally started with rowing boats known as wherries. The wherrymen of Gosport and Portsmouth used to row you across the harbour in those days.
See that round tower right over there in the corner? That's the one we've been at before. And you climb up the stairs to get up to it. Stand on the top looking out. Well, that's where we need to be, in there, for that boat is.
Which is Britain's first ever submarine. That has the lake on your right. Now directly ahead of us, soon to be on the right, the entrance to the port of Portsmouth. All the ships you've seen today, this is the only way down from. It's about 500 foot across. So this is where the Queen Elizabeth had to come through this very narrow gap to make her way up to the Princess Royal Jetty. Now when she came in through the harbour entrance there, folks, at the narrowest point, she only had 30 metres of safe water either side of her. That's how tight it is getting her through that entrance. Now as we cross the harbour, look out through the entrance, some very good views of the eastern Solent coastline of the Isle of Wight over on the right hand side. You'll also see some fortifications built out in the middle of the sea, built in the days of Palmerston to fend off attacks from the French and Spanish fleets.
That's where we started off at Gunmore Quays. And there's the ferry terminal we walked past where the buses
Ahead
were
on the right there we have Speyside, and that's the oldest part of Portsmouth. It's here that the old sailing ships used to tie up to unload their cargoes of fine silks and exotic fruits. Also here that some of the first potatoes landed in this country, pulled ashore by saltwater raleigh. Now you'll see the two pubs over there. We've got Still and West, Speyside and Dim. I don't know how true it is, or we can say that Lord Nelson used to drink at the Speyside and Dim. It's also said both those pubs on the right are very haunted.
25,
Black spirits have been seen behind the bar. To the left is Spice Island, the entrance to the town camper, home to the Whiting car ferry, safe there in there, just about to sail. And also in the town camper, you'll see the big grey building with the Union flag on the side. That belongs to Sir Ben Ainsley, that's his HQ for the America's Cup bid. Gunwharf Quays, home to over 95 outlet shops, over 30 bars and restaurants. Also home to the Spinnaker Tower, 170 metres above sea level, 558 foot in old money. 2.5 times higher than Nelson's Column. It's one of the tallest observation platforms outside of London. Views on a good day of around 23 miles. 3 viewing decks at the top there. Lower one housing one of the largest glass floors in Europe. If you dare to walk across, give it the idea you're walking on air. Top one is known as the crow's nest. It's got no roof and is open to the elements. The spire you see at the top of the tower, that's 27 metres in height, built at ground level, lifted up there by crane and carefully put in position. Tower weighs in around 30,000 tonnes. Portsmouth Harbour Station, this is the main rail link from Portsmouth to London Waterloo, up to Cardiff, along the coast to Brighton. Also home to the Whiting Catamaran service, see one of them alongside there, the White Rider one. They do a service from here across to Ryde Pier on the island, that's about a 22-minute journey. And ahead of us on the right, again, we do have HMS Warrior, the first of the British ironclad warships. 9,210 tonnes, 380 foot in length, 58 foot across. The masts you see on the Warrior, they're 200 foot in height. Now, she is actually licensed for civil ceremonies. Most weekends, the wedding will take place in the captain's cabin at the rear of the vessel. Now, the centre-four flag's flying down the rigging there. If you get married, well, today they're spelling out Warrior 1860. But if you get married, you can have them changed to spell out whatever you wish. Now, in the past, we've seen the obvious, such as congratulations, good luck, and well done. It was last September, though, the best man he had to put up there, don't do it. So anyhow, folks, we will shortly be arriving back at the Historic Dockyard. Means we are coming to the end of your tour with us today. Do hope you've enjoyed your time on board, and if you have, of course, if you wish to, thank you bucket will be available to the boat. We'd like to show your appreciation to the crew. We'd like to thank you very much for coming with us today, folks. We do hope you enjoy the rest of your time at the Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. Now, we've just got to wait a little while, folks. The alley cat's still alongside. She's supposed to have sailed at 2:30. So no doubt she'll be underway very shortly. And once she's gone, we'll get you ashore as quickly as we can.
The other boat's leaving now.
folks, we are back alongside. Gangway just round your position. Once again, thank you very much for coming on today. Do take care, leave the boat now, watch all the steps and that. Do take care of the boat. Now, you probably noticed the water bus is just pulling in next to all of us. She does take you across to the submarine museum. Now, unfortunately, if you want to use this service, you will need to go back up the top of the queue, please. It will take you down the next water bus to the submarine museum. It's all ready to book.
Say about me. There we go. Watch your step.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Take care.
We made it. Did you like that then?
Yeah. Are we going back to the car now?
What time is it? Quarters to 3 now. Should we go and have a look at action stations quick?
Where is that?
Just over the other side.